Hey guys, what's up? It is Dan and Brad, and today we are joined by a special guest, Nathan Rubbelke from the St. Louis Business Journal. And today we're going to shoot the shit with some current events before we get into our second episode that we'll record later. But can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Nathan?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, no problem.
Looking forward to this. So I work at the St. Louis Business Journal. I've been there about 4.5 years. I cover sports business, entrepreneurship, and technology. Along with that, I run our St. Louis Inno publication, which is basically focused on innovation, tech, and startups. It's a specific website for all those stories. It's got its own newsletter, own events, own award publications as well. So that's a little bit about me.
So is it INNO?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because when you guys were talking about it, I thought it was like NO. But then whenever you explained it, innovation, it's all coming together for me.
Silent N.
Yeah. It's part of the American Inno Network. So there's 45 different cities with Inno publications in them.
Yeah. So when he walked in today, I was like, oh, this guy looks familiar. But he had interviewed me for a small piece on St. Louis co-working back in the day.
Subtle flex.
That was the first time I was in the newspaper.
I think I did another story on you too.
Yeah, so I did that one, and then I did one when I launched an app called Gig Me.
Okay.
Which was like an app for, if you want a doorknob installed or whatever. And it was like, there's an app for that. I don't know if you had written that one. And then I did a third one where we were launching this product called Casper in our recruiting company. And it was kind of like, this is a new spin on recruiting. So those are how many times?
That was 3 times. I kind
of. Also, whenever I was like the third biggest recruiting firm.
Oh, what? 4th?
I'm just kidding. I had to keep going just because Brad will give me shit.
Was that on the Business Journal list?
That was on the Business Journal list for recruitment agencies. So I was kind of disappointed, actually. So the year before, I was number 3. And we 10x the amount of placements we were doing and all this. And this was during COVID. So then the next year, they did they say, how many placements did you do? What kind of business did you do? All this stuff. And I'm feeling really good. Like, we might have moved up a couple of spots and we were the same. And everybody else 10x. I'm like, what the hell? So anyways, but good stuff.
So since this is our current event episode, have you guys seen that Netflix turns 25 years old on Monday?
Wow. That's crazy. I remember when they first came out, they shipped you a DVD.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what I actually totally forgot about that. I thought that was the Redbox platform, but that was Netflix. I can fondly remember the clear DVD case that said Netflix on it. But to think that they're 25 years old, I mean, I'm 34. So that's I was 9 years old when Netflix started.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, blows my mind.
But I mean, I think that there's a lot of companies that start and they don't get any sort of traction for 5 or 6 years. So you never think of that, But I don't know if can you still rent the DVDs? Because whenever I do a search, it'll say available on streaming, and then it'll have other titles that aren't available on streaming.
I can only imagine the DVDs you're going to get sent to your house.
Yeah, there's some good ones.
I actually I like the DVD model a lot. I feel like you could almost get any movie you wanted back then from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear about the story with Blockbuster? And this doesn't have really anything to do with Netflix, but it's interesting to see how the businesses. Blockbuster obviously had market share across rental movies, and Redbox comes along and they're like, you're crazy, that's stupid. And I think Blockbuster had a chance to buy either Redbox or Netflix. I think it was Netflix.
I think it was Redbox.
Redbox for something stupid, like $10 million or something, and they passed on it. And I wish I didn't know we were going to talk about this, otherwise I would have actual stats. So Google this if you want. But they were who put Blockbuster out of business because they refused to change. They were too late to the game. And then Netflix obviously came along. But there's still Red boxes.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I feel like they're every single Walgreens almost. So.
I don't own a DVD player.
Yeah, I walk by them all the time and I want to see that movie. And then I realize I don't have a DVD player. So what good is it to buy
that's true.
Do you have a VHS player?
No.
We have one for old family videos that we had recorded.
Yeah.
And so hopefully it doesn't break because I don't know where to buy one.
And then something else interesting I saw today is so in the startup space here is the co-founder of LinkedIn, Eric Lai.
Okay.
He started a business called Karma Check. And would you believe that a third of all LinkedIn profiles have false information on them?
I would believe that. Yeah.
But do you think that's low or high? Because I personally think it's almost low.
Is that intentionally false information, or is that
I don't know?
Because I check a lot of times for a story I'm working on. And it's like, okay, this is where this guy worked before, and then I see it. He says he's still working at this one company. I know he left it a year ago.
Yeah.
And so it's not accurate, but I don't know if it's
owning a recruiting firm, that happens all the time where they logged in and 2008. They updated their stuff and then they never logged back in. So I could see that. But intentional stuff, I could also see a third of, because they say like 50% of people have fake stuff even on their resume.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They embellish the job that they're doing or something.
Easily.
So,
yeah.
and how easy is it to be like, oh yeah, back in 2008, I was part of like, National Honor Society. Who's going to check that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Maybe a reporter.
I think I'm the only subset of a group of people that actually go back and check your National Honor Society membership.
Hey, Miss Fisher, was Dan Greiner a Honor Society
story?
Yeah. And then, so we were talking about this before you came in with, I guess, our engineer of the podcast, and we were talking about baseball cards and how popular baseball cards seem to be. Like, one year they're really popular, another year it seems like they're not selling nearly as many. Just this week, there was a new record for the most expensive baseball cards sold, which was $12.6 million for a 1952 Mickey Mantle card. And that broke the previous record of $9.3 million for a Diego Maradona jersey. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I saw that too, yeah.
So I was just...
soccer player.
It almost has to be a soccer player, but I was just, so that's the record, which I thought it was a Babe Ruth ball, which was the record. So I had two things new there. And Dan's a big sports card guy.
So
right?
So I have a ton of sports cards. I got in, when I was a kid, I was into it, and then I started like investing, I guess. I just started buying stuff that, now I'm older and I still like cards. I got you to buy one pack of cards.
Yeah, I did.
He's got a Justin Herbert rookie card out of it. That's probably worth a little bit of money. But yeah, and what's so interesting about that Mickey Mantle is everybody used this grading company called PSA that was like the pinnacle of grading. And the Mickey Mantle that sold, I think, was a SGC, which is like a third tier grading company that they bought that card from. But you started seeing a lot of these cards, like these national treasures, LeBron James or whatever, selling for millions and millions of dollars. And it's almost like that card is not worth that much money. And it was almost like, is somebody pumping artificial values? Because if you look, I could talk about this for days, but if you look, there was a lot of like shell bidding going on in I guess in sports cards and Pokemon cards, because I do Pokemon cards too. And so it's almost like, is this pumping the value? Is who bought it have 10 of those Mickey Mantles sitting on his shelf at home, and by buying it for that, he raises the value of each one of those by $1 million.
I've got a few Mickey Mantles sitting at home, actually.
Really?
My dad, one of his neighbors went away to college and gave him all his baseball cards.
Really?
I had like 3 or 4 Mickey Mantles on my wall growing up. And now I'm gonna go back home and they're not in mint condition, far from in condition. But
yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. People pay for condition, but if you have those, I would for sure get them graded, because as soon as they're graded, it's kind of like you're buying a known commodity. And I have a Michael Jordan rookie card, and it's not graded, and I have a whole story about that. But graded, they're worth crazy amounts of money. But so many people made fake ones that a lot of people are hesitant to buy the fake ones. Now, the one that I bought from this guy, and I mean, we have time doing this. So I bought this card from this guy, Michael Jordan rookie card. I wake up, and this was when I was really into cards, and it was $800, and it was on Facebook Marketplace. And I'm like, that's worth the risk. Like, I might lose $800, but if it's real, it's worth $2,500, $3,200, somewhere around there, without being graded. So I go over there. The guy has like, I love Jesus and all these things like all over his yard, which is fine, right? And he opens, he's like, yeah, I've had this card since like, early 90s. I own a sports card shop. I'm looking at it, and like I researched like how to know if one's real before I obviously went. So I'm like looking at it, I'm like, this thing is legit. Like, it's legit. So I bought it. I bring it home, and I'm still like hesitant because I'm like, I just paid $800 for this like piece of paper, right? And so I'm doing more research. I posted on like baseball groups, on baseball card groups, basketball card groups on Facebook. They're like, yeah, it looks legit, all that. I'm like, something's off. It's not centered right, And so I take a Fleer 86 Fleer baseball card, which is the same size as that, and I put them over each other, and mine is short, which means it was trimmed to make the condition look better. And so this guy, what he did was he trimmed the card, and there was a Honus Wagner that was trimmed that actually Wayne Gretzky had bought at one time for $1 million+ bucks. And that was like a big thing. And the FBI started doing research into like trimming cards and doing all these things. So being trimmed, it's authentic altered, and it's only worth like, right now it's probably worth about $1,500 graded with authentic altered. But at the time it was like worth $1,000 authentic altered. So I'm still up $200 technically, but I'm pissed because I'm like, so I email this guy, and I go over the top when I get mad, like with this kind of stuff, because I'm a do the right thing person. And like, clearly you lied to me about something, and you have like all this facade up, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I reach out to him. I go, hey man, good news, card's real. And I go, bad news is the card's trimmed. And I go, so here's some options. I go, one, the FBI is actually looking into card trimmers for high value cards, which Michael Jordan rookie cards, like a holy grail of cards. And I go, so I don't know. I could either report that, or or you can give me a like $300 refund and I keep the card, or you give me a full refund and you can have the card back. And then I went a little bit farther, and I was like, this was like a little childish, but I was like, I go, or I have screenshots of all your Facebook friends, and I'll just run a Facebook ad towards all of them, telling them the story, including your pastor at your church.
Funny.
Which is ridiculous. But
And you didn't do.
I didn't. No. So I go, which option would you like? You have 24 hours to answer me. And so he's like, he didn't want to see me again, and he didn't want to deal with it. So he's like, I'll send you a check. So he sent me the $300, and but I still have it, and it's still valuable. It's just like, so that's my card
Story of the day.
Yeah. Sorry.
So something else out of this world is NASA called off their space launch that was supposed to happen. I think it was yesterday. And this is Boeing's like first shot at like really trying to like prove that they're capable of sending a rocket to space. And this one was supposed to orbit the moon, and I believe an unmanned rover might have been going to the surface. They had to call the launch off. And what blows my mind, and I kind of want to get your guys' opinion on it, the last time we've been to the moon was 1972. We've been sending astronauts up pretty regularly now with SpaceX for the last, say, 4 years, right? And I find it very odd that we're just now, over 50 years ago, trying to go back to the moon, and it's seeming to be this difficult of a process. So what do you think?
So you think it's fake? The first one's...
I'm not saying it's fake. I just think that the amount of technology we have now versus then is far superior. I did listen to an Elon Musk podcast about like what he thought about us going to the moon, and he thinks it was real. He thinks we did do it. It was just like basically it was U.S. versus Russia. Who's going to get to the moon first? And they did everything they could to make sure one of them won. So it brought out a lot of technology out of everybody at that time period. And then we just kind of lost interest in it, I guess.
Well, I mean, like, how much value is the moon once you get there, right? Like, in terms of making
right now,
there's to go back.
Right now there's a lot of value in it because it's basically going to end up being a place for supplies in order to go to Mars, is what they're saying.
Oh, it's like a...
Yeah.
It's like... Yeah, it's like your layover, essentially.
Yeah, that's a hell of a layover.
Well, my thing with the yesterday, the launch being delayed, you feel like you would have that all buttoned up.
Yes.
Like 2 days, but well beforehand. And I'm not going to claim to know that's out of my domain, but it just seemed odd in the 11th hour. You're going to say, all right,
yeah,
we're not going to the moon for something that requires so much planning and time.
Was it like the wind, or was it like a weather?
No, it was
thing?
like an engine issue.
Yeah, mechanical.
So it was like
issue.
something pretty major.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would imagine that there's probably like 5 pieces of, like, you do parts for airplanes and stuff like that. So it's like, how many parts are available of something like that? Like, they can't just take that bolt. There's probably like
a very customized.
Yeah, like piece, and there's just not that many pieces of equipment.
And they're not going to share all the details. They're not going to be very transparent.
Yeah.
I mean, they're transparent enough, or they need to be, but they're not going to bring it apart and show it. It's really, we're just going to be kind of left guessing, I think.
But so that makes sense to me now, like why we would want to get there. But like after the initial one, it's kind of like, oh, we're on the moon. There's some rocks here. Like, you know what I mean? There's to me, like, what was the value of going back just to go back?
I mean, I have no interest in myself going to space personally. I do find space to be very interesting, and I've been listening to a lot more podcasts and videos about Mars, and it is interesting because it almost seems like I don't think it'll ever be a thing in our lifetime where Earth does not exist, but I feel like Elon Musk is a very smart individual that can see a lot further into the future than me, and I think he knows that Earth is already depleting in a way that it's not going to be sustainable for generations to come, which I don't even think it's going to be my great-grandchildren that aren't going to see Earth. But I think he's just doing what it takes to make it happen 500 to 1,000 years from now.
Well, I think it's interesting because no matter what, like there will be a last day on Earth when the sun burns out, right? Like the sun only has a finite amount of resources to
and it's
be
burnt. The sun grows every single year because it's exploding continuously. Like the sun is a star that's already exploded.
Oh, really?
Yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah, so it's really weird to think about, but yeah, I mean, what does it take? Like 7 or 8 minutes for the light from the sun? I always think about this from the sun to get to the Earth, and so the sun could have went out 8 minutes ago or 6 minutes ago, and we're all gone in 2 minutes.
That would be wild.
We'll be here in the studio.
We won't even
we won't know. We'll just step outside.
Video. Like if somebody ever comes back, we got it. So there's that, and then I find the universe fascinating. Like they haven't found the end of the universe. Like it just keeps growing. Like what does that even mean? How is that? What is that? You know what I mean? Like how?
Basically with the new James Webb telescope too. Like we're trying to find out a lot more about the universe, which to me is super trippy to think that like. The picture that they could be taking could be the Earth that was being created like light years ago. And we're like looking into the past.
Yeah. That's what they say if you're on a star and you're looking back at the Earth, the light that's being like transmitted could be like, you could be literally right now, they're just now seeing like Egyptians build pyramids. Yeah. Because that's how long it took the light to get from Earth.
It's crazy.
So anyways.
Mind blowing.
It's just some crazy shit to think about. So
yeah, I mean, the only other thing I don't know if you guys want to touch on it, is that Honda and LG Energy are investing $4.4 billion into a electric vehicle battery plant in the U.S. So I don't know if that's the first one of its kind or not, but it's a lot of money, and it's interesting that it's going to be here. And I also am curious of what like tree hugger groups and stuff like that are going to think about that situation, because everything I kind of think about electronic battery plants is that they're pretty nasty. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I mean they strip mine the Earth for batteries, so it's like, what is like the?
I don't know how you transport something like that from wherever we get it to America, and how that's going to be safe.
Yeah. There's a company here that's trying to mine cobalt for batteries.
Really?
I never thought of how do they actually get it from that mine an hour and a half out of St. Louis.
Yeah,
to wherever it's going to go. It's got to be pretty nasty.
Yeah.
They're probably not telling a whole lot of people that.
It can't be good. It can't be. It's like asbestos, probably.
I'm sure.
So do you have any current events that you would want to bring up, St. Louis wise? Like you're around news all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we'll probably get into this in the other conversation we have, but there's some exciting news yesterday with a local startup that doubled its headcount with a big deal that's in the healthcare space, kind of going after senior living, trying to make senior living better. They kind of see this key moment of all these people are getting older and the care model's not great. For me, that was a big newsmaker this week.
That's cool.
Seemed to have a lot of interest from the page views we got on it.
Yeah.
That's been a model that I've been interested in for so long, just because the amount of boomers there are all going to have to go into assisted living or some sort of assistance moving forward. Mm-hmm. But I also am curious of how sustainable is it after the boomers?
Yeah, that's what I've wondered. You see all these facilities go up.
Yeah.
And then we talked about this in our office in the past. Like, are those? I think one of the developers one time talked about it. Like they're trying to make those buildings be really readaptable for apartments at some point, because they know we're going to get through this 20, 30-year crush.
Yeah.
And then in 20, 30 years, some of those buildings might just be knocked down anyways. But
you have to have that need serviced. you know, and so you have to have the capacity, and there's going to be money to be made. I just don't know if it's a business that I already have a hard time being around older people.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just hard for me. But what I will say is like my wife's grandma, she's 102 and she's in a facility. She woke up one day and she had like a huge bruise on her head, and they're like, we don't know what happened. And I'm like, how do they not have like cameras that I can tune into? You know what I mean? Like that's a business.
Yeah.
Right
that
there,
is
where it's
security.
But they probably don't want.
They don't want that in there.
They don't. Because if they do something
Just
wrong,
reminds me of Happy Gilmore. And
exactly.
Happy's grandma.
Isn't it Ben Stiller?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
my grandparents lived in those facilities for 5+ years, and they're not the most enjoyable place at all
Yeah.
to go into. Which it feels awful because you're going in there to visit, and you're looking forward to seeing them. But when you're in the hallways, you're like,
I know.
I can get out
And
of
it feels
here.
crazy. They're like, we're going to do a prom, or we're going to do this. It's almost like you're a professional, you do career, you have grandkids, like you're a normal person, and then you go back to like you're being treated like a little kid.
Yeah.
exactly.
It's
It's a weird life cycle. Yeah.
And like people even talk to you, oh, hi. You know what I mean? Like it's so weird to me how that happens. So anyways.
So
Let's go.
that seems like a perfect segue. If you guys enjoyed Nathan on this current event episode, we are going to have him on the following episode, which is going to be all about St. Louis startup scene, a little bit about the new healthcare startup he's got. Maybe it's a good investment for you guys. If you get a chance, make sure to tune in and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.